Hi, this is Gеше Michael and Nick Lashaw, the director of the Mixed Nuts Translation Group. And we're going to do some videos about different organizations that are going to benefit for the coming couple hundred years if we can purchase a small business, a storage business, which is close to the college here in Sedona, Arizona. And we're trying to fundraise. And to fundraise, we're trying to give you a picture of the generation to generation progress of these different organizations that we have. So you know the idea of snow on the mountain, and that, you know, our work starts with finding ancient books and then saving them and then inputting them and then translating them. So today we're going to talk about the step of translating them. And when you translate them, then it's possible for the other organizations to bring them to real people and share them with real people and create programs and materials that real people can use. So, you know, I've been asked to talk about my generation. I like to think that I'm generation number 100 from the very first of these ancient books, 2,500 years ago. In the tradition, lineage, each generation is considered to be about 25 years. Normally, the teacher's about 50 by the time they're teaching a new student who's 25. So I'm generation 100, Nick's generation 101. So I'm going to talk about my generation's life with the translations and what it has meant to us, how we use them, how we have done them. And then I'll be handing it over to Professor Nick to talk about, you know, what's his own personal experience of translating. How did you get started? You know, what does it mean for you? How do you use it? What do you hope will come out of it? And how will this storage facility, for example, how will this endowment create the generation after you, your daughter? And we have here Maitri. You want to show Maitri? He's representing all of the children of generation 102. Okay, and I'm not kidding. Okay, I am generation 100. Nick here holding Maitri is generation 101, and Maitri himself is 102. And what we're trying to do is cover the next 100 generations. We're trying to create an energy to get the next 100 generations going. So I'm going to talk about how generation 100 got things going. So I'll talk about 5 minutes. And then Nick will talk about his generation and maybe about Maitri's generation. Okay. Now for me, the experience of translating is pretty much wrapped up in these books that you see here. And I started, when I started studying, there was not enough books. There had been, disturbances, political problems in the Himalayas, and especially the Cultural Revolution. And so it was hard to get books. And I started translating from a book that I had to read upside down from the teacher's desk. So I would sit on the floor and I would see the book upside down, and I had to learn to read it upside down because there was only one copy for about 100 guys. And in a rare situation, we'd be able to borrow some pages, which is a very dangerous practice because then they get lost. They don't get back to the book. So I'm just going to introduce you to some of the books that, this is how I started translating. And I'm just going to grab some books. This is a book about Jetson. So cool. This was the first book that we started translating at all, and the first book that we ever printed. And it's called Surku. So Surku means secondary topics to the lower middle way. And these books were missing. they were completely missing. We couldn't find any copies. And so the mind only, the Kunshi, Foundation Consciousness text, was missing completely. And we found it and we restored it. So here's an original carving that you guys can see. And it looks like this, okay? And, you flip through the pages, and this is a very good carving, actually. And so we would be flipping through these pages. I'm going to dump these on you, Nick. And we'll wrap them up later. So it's traditional to just temporarily go like that. So this was the first book that we ever worked on. I like this cloth. It was given to me by one of my teachers. It's a silk, I think from Japan or China. And this particular book is Diamond Way book. This is the commentary on the Vajrayogini practice. And this is Pabonka's commentary. So this became the ACI courses.
Wow.
Courses like, the Diamond Way courses. This book became, and we are going to do more, by the way. This became, I think, course 8 or something like that. But it's my teacher taught this for almost 30 years. So I was able to get a copy. And so I would be working from that. I would be translating from that. I'm not going to open them all up because we don't have time. This is the last book that I'm aware of that was ever carved by the people from the Himalayas that I knew. And there were 2 old brothers in their 80s who were carvers. And we commissioned this carving. And this is a basic explanation of a book by Asanga and Maitreya. As you know, the Jewel of Realizations. It's a basic commentary. Yeah. This is the book that Adam is translating in the Mixed Nuts.
Oh,
this
cool.
is part of it. This is 1/3 of that book. This is called Riglam Chewa, which means the advanced part of his clear thinking text. This is and by the way, traditionally they don't put the name on the cloth, and I invented it because I was tired of opening every single book to find the book I needed. But this is this goes along with that logic book. It's the second part. This is a famous requesting verse to the Angel of Diamond. This is, and by the way, I collected all these books before we had the database. After John Brady finished the database, or got pretty well into it, I have not opened these books in 20 years.
Right.
Because I don't have to anymore. This is How to Keep Your Bodhisattva Vows. It's a beautiful commentary on keeping your Bodhisattva vows. This is a book on Mind Only School, and we just finished translating the topic with Words book. These are different commentaries to the 3 principal paths, and this became the first ACI course. Yay! These are commentaries to the second ACI course, okay, on refuge. This is one of the, I think it's 36 books of Tsongkhapa and his 2 disciples' collected works. And we were the first people to print it outside of Tibet. Wow. And it took many years, and we finished it. So that was a pretty great achievement. There were no copies outside of Tibet before we printed it. This is a cute book, okay? One of the early translations we did on clear thinking. I think the date is 1983 or something like that. And we did it with a typewriter. I think, Seiji, you can show it. It was done, the English was done with an old typewriter, and the Tibetan was done on a typewriter, the first one ever invented. And it was shipped to us. It fell out of the airplane, and it broke. And some of the keys, we had to push them on the paper.
Wow.
To get it to print.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's an important book. This is a book on clear thinking. It was missing completely in the whole world. And a monk walked into John Brady's input center and said, I have a book that no one in the world has.
Wow.
And we took it and we printed it. And so this is a great book. The system of translation and printing that we invented is used now everywhere in the world where Tibetan is used, and Sanskrit and Tibetan. So this is a series of books that has been printed in Tibet recently, and it uses our system. All printing in Tibet uses the ALL systems that were invented for computer printing. All printing, Tibetan culture was saved by John Brady's project, and people don't know that. People don't realize that. This book was printed, created using the systems that John Brady's project invented. Yeah. And this is Diamond Cutter Commentary, recently translated, recently finished. And I'm proud of it because it has the Chinese and the Tibetan and the Sanskrit. So West China, Central China, and the original Sanskrit. And so that's kind of my generation's report. How about your generation?
Well, thank you, Geshe Michael, and thanks for inviting me to participate in this. Well, thanks to Geshe Michael, we have a program to translate these books, and I think that, the art of translation of these specific ideas has been going on for, I guess, at least 1,000 years, because it all started in Sanskrit, and then they painstakingly and probably over several centuries translated a lot of it into the West Chinese language and Chinese and other languages. And then, so all these important ideas are saved in languages that are, or in a style of language that's really old. Like I like to think about the comparison that you've made to say that reading it today is like reading Shakespeare or something. Like it's a language that's harder to understand, but the essence of it is there, like the philosophical ideas. And I got into this stuff because I had a lot of questions in life. Like I was trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life, like what's worth doing, what's important, how to live, and how to be happy, and how to get rid of problems. And I started studying the ideas that are contained within this stuff with Geshe Michael and other teachers, and I found it like amazingly helpful. And then it was giving me practices and stuff to answer my questions, and sometimes answering those questions directly. And I was like, this stuff is so important, and it's amazing. And then I found out about the ALL database, and there's like hundreds of thousands of pages of ideas contained in this database. And I was like, that's so amazing. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to read it. And I opened the computer and I went to the website, and I couldn't read a word of it because I don't, it's like, it's precious and it's there, and I didn't know what it says. And it takes a special person with a special kind of knowledge to understand it. So I went to study with Geshe Michael and other teachers at a place called Diamond Mountain in the southern Arizona desert. And here I'm starting to learn about all these ideas in a really practical and deep way. And I was just like, my mind was blown. And I took a lot of different classes, did yoga, built cabins. And there was one class, I think it was on Monday nights, right? Jigme. It was called Sacred Classics Translator. And in that class, we were going through Umachiden, this monastic textbook. And it was really hard. And we were going through the ancient language, and we were going through the process of translating it into English. And it was really confusing, but it was amazing. And I was already interested in languages in my life. I just found them fascinating, and I felt like I kind of had an ability to...
You're good at... your Spanish is quite good.
Yeah, I
heard
speak
you speak Spanish. and Italian and
Portuguese
Portuguese.
and some French.
Yeah.
Easy languages when you compare them to some of the languages that we work with now.
Hard for me to learn.
Yeah. Well, so I had some skill with it. So I just got interested in this course in particular. And there was a small group of people that seemed to be working hard to learn how to translate. So I just tried to follow them around and see what they were doing. And like Ben Kramer was my first Tibetan teacher, and he taught me a lot of stuff. And it was just a fascinating process, and because I like writing too. And so I started working on it together with some other students, and then a bunch of us moved to Phoenix. That the course in that university ended, and then we moved to a big city, and I was helping to start a community center there. And I wanted to keep trying to study these deep ideas, but you need to work closely with a teacher in order to do it, because it's hard, right? I mean, if I understand correctly, you studied closely with your teacher to learn this stuff, and you got to ask him a lot of direct questions, and even if you had to corner him in the car, and, and go to Howard Johnson's on the 95.
Yeah.
So I devised a way to help Geshe Michael help his old lady with her gardening, because I have been a gardener. So I started just showing up there and helping her dig holes and put in irrigation and fixing things in her house. And I figured if I hung around enough, then Geshe Michael would, notice, and I'd get the chance to be like, hey, can we do some of that Tibetan language stuff? And so it took a while, but it worked. And one day, he was like, hey, let's translate this this poster. It was a lineage poster, and I'm still working on it 10 years later. But we sat together for a while in cafes and stuff, going person by person through this poster, this of the lineage coming from Buddha all the way down to us. He's generation 100, and I'm 101. And I started learning how to translate, and we just sat together for many, many, many hours. Sometimes just us, sometimes other people would come because they were interested. And eventually, we kept expanding, and then we got this building here in Sedona, and then we found about 10 more people who were really interested, and worked hard to get some funding, and we got a program going where for 10 or 11 of us are sitting together, 11 including Geshe Michael, are sitting together, learning the different languages of the different schools of philosophy together. So we're all learning how to translate all the different schools. Luckily, we have a Geshe to help us understand all that stuff, because it's not easy. And it seems to be a really long process. And the ideas contained in there, they seem sometimes really confusing, sometimes really intellectual. But if you really can grasp the essence of it, it's extremely practical and extremely relevant to our lives today. So the goal of the Mixed Nuts, which is the name of our team, because we're all from different places and we're all a little bit nuts. Officially, we're the Diamond Cutter Classics translation team. Yeah. And our goal is to translate these ideas, under Geshe Michael's guidance in a way that's understandable and practical and relevant and accessible to the modern world, and correct, of course. So that's where these books come from. So this is the first in the series. And if you read, this is a commentary to the Diamond Cutter Sutra, one of the most difficult and potentially confusing things you could find. Yeah. But the way it's translated makes it possible to understand and put into practice in your life. And that's our goal as the Mixed Nuts. And we need help to keep going, because there's so much, there's so many books, and there's so much wisdom contained in these books that we're going to need, a bigger team, and we're going to need time, a lot of time, and several generations to really get through all this stuff. I think the first round of translation 1,000 years ago took like 700 years. Yeah. So we need a plan to keep this going. Yeah. And so our idea is that if we can get this, there's a business right behind our college here, and it's a storage, they rent out storage units to people. If we can buy that business, it'll generate some income that will help to keep us going. So if you could contribute to the effort of us getting that business, it's going to help this plan not only for the short term, but also with the long-term progress. So please consider. And if you just want to make donations or support the Diamond Cutter Classics in general, check out our website. It's diamondcutterclassics.com. And some of the books that we're working on translating are available there too. Anything else?
No, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, you know, it took 700 years to get this far. And I honestly think it would take about 700 years more. That's about 20 generations. So we must have funding to keep it going. It's not that we are buying expensive things or we are living rich or something like that. We just, if we don't have support, we can't work. It takes many, many hours. This is 500 pages. I can tell you, each page took about 10 hours per page. So you're talking 5,000 hours to finish this. And, you know, people have to eat. People have kids. And we need to, if we can't get support from this business that we're proposing, we can't finish it. We can't do the work. We won't have time. So I hope you guys will help. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.